So today I want to talk about the most important skill for staying lean and healthy throughout your whole lifetime, right? So it's one thing to just do it, lose weight, get healthy in the short term, right? And that obviously requires a whole lot of effort, but the thing that's much harder or, much more important really is to keep it off, to do it forever. Right, because the journey never ends. I've obviously haven't reached the end of my life, but I've been doing this for about 25 years, as in that's when I started helping myself lose weight. I lost 30 kilos, and I've had to keep it off that whole time and find various ways to do that and to stay in the game. And then I've devoted my life to helping other people do that as well. So, I've become a trainer and a life coach and a therapist, hypnotherapist, and all in an effort to become better at helping people get on track themselves, right? And more importantly, to stay on track. And that's really what I want to get to, which, just to give it away right here, that is the skill, the most important skill I mentioned, is to be able to stay in the game. How do you stay in the game? How do you get re-engaged in the process even when you fall off track? Because the fact is we always will fall off track, right? Life doesn't exist in a vacuum. We don't have only our health goals in mind. We have relationships and family and friends and work. Now, that's a huge one. Also, you get sick or you change jobs, go on holidays. All these things, they're classic things that have people falling off track, have people getting, and that's something that should be expected. Because, to think that you're just going to have a perfect run and have nothing ever go wrong and you're just going to stay perfectly on track for the 20, 30, 40, 50 years is silly. It's not going to happen. You are going to fall off track all the time, many, many, many times. But it's about making sure that those falling off tracks don't last too long. I've always said to people that, I've seen lots of people lose 5 to 10 kilos 5 to 10 times, right? And that's a common story, and you might relate to it yourself. That they really have lost 50 kilos, not all in the one go, and it happens, little bits and pieces that they do. So if you could have just taken away all those breaks, then they would have lost that weight. That's the thing. It's keeping those off track times to as minimum as possible, right? And being able to get back into it and create momentum in your life, create momentum with those health goals, because that's so important. You can't if you don't have momentum, you're just fighting yourself. When you're fighting yourself, it's laborious, and you just don't want to do it, and you just can't keep it up. Right? When you're fighting yourself the whole time, you can't keep it up. So it's a psychological game. It's not having the right plan. It's not having the best training program, the best eating program. Those things, they come and go. Different things are going to be appropriate at different times in your life. And you're going to, based on all the other things going in your life, that is going to determine what's going to be the best plan. We don't always have all of our energies available for focusing on that. So this is a fascination of mine, right? Is not just someone's ability to take it off, but it's to keep it on. So someone said to me, someone asked me, who is the most successful person that you've worked with? What's the most success that you've seen? And it was difficult for me to answer because the thing is, I don't see it as done. The story isn't over. It's still going. We're still going, and there are plenty of people who've lost, 20, 30, 40, 50 kilos, but people put it on and, take it off and then put it back on, and they go back and forth, and we're still here. We're still in the game. I mean, there's this, it's never over. That's just the reality of life, and the phases do change. At first you're losing it all, and that requires a certain amount of energy and effort and focus, and then keeping it off for the first 6 months, and then for the first year, that has a certain energy and concentration and momentum that you bring to it, and then as it goes on and on, there's different things. As your life changes, that your focus and your plan and everything needs to evolve and change with it. If you move houses, you move jobs, your timetable changes. There's 1,000 things, and those things in your life that you've seen having your health goals have to take a back seat. The most important thing is to be able to plug back in to your health goals and your mission and get momentum. That's the thing. It's about the ability to get momentum back into it, because it's going back to the exact same plan that you were doing, and so it just feels like it's lost momentum. It's lost its mojo, right? And so sometimes you need to do something a little bit different, a little bit new, and so that can be part of getting that momentum. As you get back into it, how are you able to re-engage? Sometimes it's probably not going to be the exact same way that you did it last time, right? That's a little bit of a key there. So, and this isn't the same for everyone. You've got to find your way. Maybe you reach out to a coach, maybe you reach out to some friends or support networks in whatever way to help you along that journey as well. But it's not a matter of doing exactly the same thing a lot of the time. To be able to get that momentum, the momentum requires a bit of new energy to it, right? When you think about momentum, you think about the laws of physics and how there's an object in motion tends to stay in motion, and then the whole thing about inertia and having getting started on something. It takes a lot of energy and effort to get to start something from nothing, right? But when you sort of coming up to a red light or something, when you're driving, and then it takes so much more effort for the car to sort of, if you come to an absolute stop, to then get started again. But even if you just sort of crawling along, just going ever so slowly, the ability to sort of to pick it up and then keep going it's so much easier. It's so much less effort. So so even if you're absolutely crawling at a snail's pace, it's still less effort. You've still got momentum, so you can still get it going in a much more positive and powerful way when you've got that tiny bit of momentum. So that's something in the way that I've seen for myself and for others, is that one of the biggest things is to just never let the entire thing go. Never let yourself go completely. Make sure you've still got the tiniest bit of momentum, the tiniest bit of activity happening inside of your health goals and your health journey. The biggest thing that's going to stop you from getting back into it is just letting go completely. Going, I've had enough. I don't have the effort. I don't have the energy. I don't have the concentration. I don't have the space in my life to focus on it at all. And then you're just like, I'm just going to take a break and get back to it when I can be bothered or have the energy to do so, because that's just going to take so much psychic energy to restart things. Usually via pain. It's usually things have gotten so bad. You're feeling so terrible. You're feeling so like that. You've put on all the weight again, plus more, and then finally it's like, okay, maybe it's time to get started again. If the only time you ever get back into it, if your re-engagement only ever happens when you're feeling disgusting, then that's you're never going to get ahead there. You're always behind. You go 2 steps forward and 10 steps back. Then you go 2 steps forward and you go 20 steps back, and then it's this constant back, and you're barely really going forward. You constantly go back way more steps. The most important thing for your health journey too is to just stay there, stay in the game. As long as you are, over the course of 20 years, you've been in the game longer than you've been out of it, you're going to be in a better place. And if you're putting in your best effort, you're really as far ahead as you can be. Your best effort is your best effort, right? But if you're not playing the game at all, then you're going to be nowhere. So to summarize all of this, what I'm saying is that the most important skill for lifelong leanness isn't discipline. It's not being able to force yourself to continue to do something forever. It's about how do you find momentum, how do you re-engage as you go back and forth in life? How do you get your psychology and your mindset and your momentum into your health behaviors when you inevitably fall off, when life or inevitably interrupts you? How do you constantly plug back in? Not how do you force yourself to stay in forever? How do you find that that space where you can get back into flow, back into it? Because the game is to is staying in there as long as possible, right? Because it never ends. The journey never ends. I hope that was helpful. And if you have anything to say about that, comment down below. And look around the channel and watch this video or this one. And I'll see you next time.